Now we are here with a quick hits for Metalwork Colossus in Pioneer. I'm going to play. So Gigantha is kind of foolish in this version, as really would need a copy of Prophetic Prism to be able to cast it. This hand is a bit suspect, but we do have two ways to dig for Colossus and two nice artifacts, plus an early beatdown playing with Ingenious Smith, so I think we'll go ahead and keep this hand. Opponent plays a tri-land. That could be a couple different decks at this point. Play Ingenious Smith and whiff. Kind of unfortunate, but okay. So Caryatid, most likely looking at Niv or Omnath to light at this point. Really the only card that makes sense. Opponent plays Fable. We play Glint Nest, finding the Witching Well. Pumping up the Jam. If we bottom both of those, it doesn't make much sense to keep either one. Opponent chose not to block. They pitch Growth Spiral and Clothis. Definitely mean this is Niv. Opponent is bringing to light for Niv Mizzet Reborn. And gets a whole treasure trove of cards. Play another Ingenious Smith. We really need a Metalwork Colossus here soon. The backup plan of trying to beat down with Ingenious Smith, a little bit suspect against a deck full of a bunch of removal and big beefy blockers. So Omnath doing Omnath things. Fetching, they play Growth Spiral. Play another Caryatid. Opponent does nothing. We play Brass Knucks. Makes a copy of itself. Triggers the Ingenious Smiths. Give our Ingenious Smith Double Strike. Probably should have attacked there, forced them to deal with Niv Mizzet or block with Niv Mizzet if they didn't want to take 10. Gilded Pinions is fine, but I suspect our opponent has another removal spell. If they didn't kill the thing here, we load up on it, swing in. They have Vanishing Verse. And at this point, if we don't find the Colossi soon, I think we're pretty much out of this game already, but if we don't find the Colossus soon, we're going to be in a world of hurt. And we do have the Sanctum of Ugin, so if we do find a Colossus, we should be alright, but opponent's got a very wide board here. Opponent plays a Urion. Blinks there. Niv, Omnath, all that nonsense. They could have potentially even blinked Reflection of Kikijiki. So opponent draws a bunch more cards. This was a mistake here. I should have played Ingenious Smith pre-combat. See if we could find a Metalwork Colossus. We find one Colossus. Yep. Gonna get a second one. Pump up the team. The problem at this point, we're just dead to Niv in the air, so if they're able to kill our Gilded Pinion, we're just dead in the air. They have Abrupt Decay, and we die. Pressure plus Disruption, not very good for combo decks. Alright, sideboarding. We boarded out the portable holes and the glass caskets, brought in metallic rebukes and our copies of the Antiquities War. Might help a little bit, but we really just need a good Metalwork Colossus start. Okay, so our hand has one Colossi, has several ways to cantrip as well as make our Colossus cheaper, so this one might say this is almost an ideal hand. Ensnare Prototype, go. Opponent plays tap land, we play Wedding Invitation. Next turn we'll have access to 4 mana. Play 1 Wedding Invitation, 2 Wedding Invitation. And so currently, that was one of our better draws. The Colossus costs is reduced by 1, 3, 5, 7. This would reduce it to 10 or by 10. So I presume we're casting Hunted Cloak here. Nope. Okay, we find a third Metalwork Colossi. And we cannot cast any of our Colossus this turn. This is a bit dangerous because if our opponent is able to cast one of their extraction effects, we lose like basically our entire ability to play a game. But here we get to have a ton of fun. We get to put 4 Metalwork Colossus into play. If we chose, I'm only putting, I believe I only put in 2 here because of the possibility of something like Extinction Event or Sun Scorch or whatever the 5-mana Exile Sweeper is. It's just too dangerous to expose our entire hand. You know, we could just overwhelm our opponent through spot removal, but, you know, the ability to grind, rebuy these things, etc. I just didn't think it was worth the risk, and our opponent scoops it up. So, on to game number 3. Once again, we gotta hope we don't get extracted. Alright, game number 3. We don't make any changing to the sideboard. I guess we have 1 Gluttonous Crane we could board in here, which would make sense, but the cards in our deck are largely fine. Can't really board out too many of your artifacts because you need that density of... This is another one like our hand in game number 1. We have, you know, the cantrip or the 2 ways to find plus the early pressure. I don't know... After studying this deck a little bit more, I don't know that you should be keeping hands like this, but especially against a deck with so heavy on the removal spells. You know, it's really hard to grind through everything with, you know, traditional beatdown against Niv-the-Late. We're not fast enough that we can overwhelm them, and we're not... grinding enough that these cards really matter. Do find a Colossus, which is nice, as long as it doesn't get extracted. Hit our opponent for 2. They have the Abrupt Decay, like I kind of mentioned. They have this a little bit slower, clunkier removal, but you know, I get to play Omnath here, but against our game plan, it works out quite well. Cantrip, cantrip. Unmoored Ego, card I was kind of talking about. Unfortunately, Metallic Rebuke Improvise cannot it's not like Convoke where you can tap for the color of mana. Our opponent takes our 4 copies of Metalwork Colossus, leaving us basically almost unable to win the game. I do kind of take too long to go for the Juggernaut, the 7 mana play that I mentioned in the deck overview for the deck. But I don't know that it really matters because I don't think we're winning with 1 7 mana, 7 or 5/3 or whatever. So end step, I activate Fair, go grab the Barricade Breaker that I was talking about. Gilded Pinions. Cast Barricade Breaker. Sanctum doesn't do anything because we have no other 7 mana plays in our deck because they've all been removed from our game. And really our only out is at this point Antiquities War, and we have to draw it very soon because our opponent's going to have a heck of a clock with Niv and the Wandering whatchamacallit here. And they have Coal Guns command for the extra rub-ins, so at this point we're just kind of dead in so many different ways. And the Inventor's Fair. So the only thing we really had left in our deck that would have any kind of impact in the game, that would be the Antiquities War, but it would take a little bit too long. Karn might be slightly better in these decks for these kind of like grindy matchups, but you know, with this Omnath in play, it would have been under quite a bit of pressure. So, you know, even ticking down for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, 7, 8, 8 Construct would have been nice. So I'm not sure if I'm sold on the Antiquities War. I'd probably run the non-Karn the Great Creator 4 mana Karn. Yeah, did get to see the deck do its thing, especially in game number 2. Just kind of shows the power of the deck whenever it does its thing. The problem is it's a bit inconsistent, and even when it does its thing, you know, as we saw in, what was it, game number 1, as it did the thing a little bit late, you know, if your opponent's ahead on board and has that one key removal spell, sometimes that's just all it takes to lose the game. But yeah, this deck is a blast to play. You can put a ton of power on turn 4. You can put, you know, 2 or 3 or 4 10/10s into play and just kind of overwhelm your opponent's ability to deal with them if they don't have exile-based sweepers like Farewell. But yeah, deck is decent for a budget deck. So if you like this kind of deck and you like Pioneer content, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Hope to see you for our next video.